Thank you so much for that, Janine. Hello, everyone. My name is Rome. My real name is Arome Yakubu, but feel free to call me Rome. I'm joined here with my partner Brendan. We'll go more into introductions later. But our topic was how can we diversify tech and get Black and Brown groups interested in our communities. So, with that being said, go into a little more detail about ourselves. Like I said, my name. Feel free to call me Rome. I'm a program manager with Hackbright, which is an all women's and non-binary technology school. I also made the transition into the technology space in 2016 after working in politics for almost 15 years. And then my fact about myself is that I am an amazing cook, so I doubt anyone here can beat me in that. But with that being said, I'll introduce Brendan.
Yeah, thank you so much for starting us off, Rome. So I'm Brandon Quintana, and I'm a master's student at Cal State Fullerton, and I'm studying wetland restoration, but also really interested in environmental justice and the injustices that happen in other fields like technology. And I'm really happy to be part of the Science for Social Equity program to learn more about the disparities in the technology field, and I will win at Mario Kart. So I'm getting into why we're doing this. So, according to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, only 15% of U.S. technology sector is Black and Latinx. Yet these groups only account for 28% of the overall U.S. workforce. And why is this important, Rome?
So I think one of the big reasons why it's important is that technology jobs are literally the manufacturing jobs of our time, right? If you think back, you used to be able to feed like your entire family on one of those manufacturing jobs. It's very similar in the technology industry. You can easily start out. I see offer letters all the time for anywhere from 100K to upwards of 145K, not including stocks and option benefits in the space. I'll let Brendan talk a little bit more about the other reasons.
Yeah, so the products that technology field creates in this field is going to have long-lasting impacts on the world and on its residents. So it's really important to have diverse voices in the products that are being created in this field. And according to a 2018 study, businesses do better with diversity, and companies that had diverse teams commanded more market share and were more profitable. So
So a little bit about how we actually came to our approach, how we address this problem is the first and foremost thing we did was reach out to folks in the community, right? Both people who wanted to, who expressed interest in the technology sector, maybe didn't express interest in the technology sector, and also technologists who had made their way, right? And by technologists, we mean specifically programmers or people who are what we are in like the STEM tech field. So PhD candidates, master's candidates who have kind of moved into like machine learning and other groups like that. So first and foremost, we asked, what do the community members need? How did y'all make this transaction? What resources did you use? And how can we make it easier for the next class of POCs to become technologists, right? After that, we reached out to company partners. So we talked with companies, everyone from CEOs of large Fortune 500 companies, all the way down to software engineers on just like the very much so micro level. We talked and hiring managers and recruiters. We talked to them about why are companies facing this problem? What can they do? What have they been doing wrong? And how can they improve over time? We took that data and we kind of synthesized it to look for overlapping problems. And as you can imagine, one thing that I found really interesting was that everybody kind of knows the problems in the space. It's just a matter of like developing the will and creating the solutions. And then from there, we decided to test out a couple of event types to figure out how exactly those events change people's interest levels and what events were most effective in terms of getting them, translating them into interest.
yeah, so our original target was to increase interest of Black and Brown communities in Oakland, California, but we did not get as much response from Oakland that we had hoped for. But we got more responses from the nation, showing that there is a need across for technology within Oakland and across the nation. But whether it was in Oakland or across the nation, there were very common barriers that Brom will talk about.
Cool. So a couple of the common barriers we saw across all demographic groups and across Black and Latinx groups specifically and across the nation was First and foremost, education. By education, we said folks did not have the skill sets, either did not have the skill sets they felt necessary, or didn't have the access to the, or didn't understand the access or like topics that were being talked about on the education level. The next biggest thing was actually really interesting to us, which was like tech culture in general, right? So just like the idea of this like very pervasive, not confrontational and not very meritocracy culture, which has had negative impacts on Black and Latinx folks. From there, we got into talking about the financial aspect of it. So, not having money for courses, lack of scholarships, like just the general affordability of like going to a 4-year university to take classes in engineering. And as you know, sometimes you have to take these classes multiple times before you understand them. Our fifth reasons were tied in terms of government issues, by which we define that as like lacking visas, lacking like the potential for like being able to work in the country. And then the other issue, which was a language barriers. So like literally English as second language speakers not being able to actually have access to the courses because they're not done in their native language, right? And then finally, the network, right? So like similar to how we see like a lot of like children very interested in sports or in the music industry, it's kind of the inverse effect in like the technology industry. We don't have as many role models to say like, oh, like this is our Black Mark Zuckerberg or our Latinx Emily Wyatt, right? So like there are none of those folks to kind of be representative of our culture.
Yeah, so after reaching out to the community and industry leaders, we wanted to put on events with Science for Social Equity that could make getting into the technology field easier, which included a technologist panel where different people in the technology field talked about how they got to their career and what career they're in now. And again, another resume website workshop where people were able to make their resume using a website with coding, as well as a hands-off coding program where people can learn how to code by playing a game. And we're still working on gathering the data from these events, but they are happening right now. And different technological pathways that we talked about where through our conversations, we have identified 2 common ways that folks can break into the industry, and we are calling these 2 pathways the early education pathway and the transitioner. So, who is the early education archetype? Based off of who we talked to, this is what they said that they did and what they found successful in their pathway. It is a person that has studied STEM or technology roles in primary or secondary school, and they usually have an interest from primary or secondary school, which whether it be robotics or calculators. Specifically for calculators, one of the people that we talked to said that they programmed their calculator in elementary school to help them solve math problems. And when we are in this primary or secondary school, we're very engaged, but after we get out of the school, we can fall off to one life event or another. So number 2 is to prioritize education through private secondary school. Boot camps, universities are some different ways to get back into the educational route to tech. And number 3 is to find a mentor to kind of show you the ropes and someone who can tell you what they recommend and what they don't, and having the knowledge beforehand was a critical step. And number 4, entering internship programs such as PwC, which is the Price Waterhouse Coopers, or Citibank, which are companies that can give you credit that you can get for your major at your university to help you gain tools that will make you competitive in the workforce, as well as creating projects, whether your interest is in gaming, then creating like a chess app, or if it's professional development, making a resume using codes. And Rome will talk about the transitioner pathway.
Thank you. And so another kind of archetype we saw was like the transitioner archetype. Now, a little bit about how these folks are different. The transitioner tends to be somebody who is more experienced, like already vested in like a workforce. So very frequently in our line of work, we saw these as like research assistants, folks coming out of PhD programs, linguists, legal professionals, folks like that. So they've been successful in another career path, and they don't really have like they maybe are supporting a family, so they don't really have the resources or the time to be able to say like, oh, it didn't work out. Maybe I'll go back to this. So with that being said, kind of they tend to, like I said, support families. What we saw was effective for them was first develop career focus, right? So whether that's security, developer operations, gaming, you have to have that focus on your career first and foremost to kind of like guide you as an arrow. Two is independent study. It's always more effective for you to, after you've developed your focus, see if this is actually a good fit for you long term. By doing that, you can like look at YouTube videos, you can go to Udemy courses. There are tons of places where you can go to just kind of start sharpening your teeth on independent study. Three, informational interviews with professionals and building out your network. So similar to a mentor, it's kind of like meeting with someone, but I'd say not as explicit in that mentorship category. Just like figuring out what this person does, getting them into your network now, kind of like starting to have those conversations so you can lean on them in the future. Uh, Four, we'd say create a project. So advance a small project that you do on your own without any support to solidify kind of like the basic knowledge. From there, we say go on to finding an institution for training, but it should not just be any institution. You should kind of focus specifically on an institution with career outcomes and support. And then finally, get some hands on experience in the workforce where you're getting paid to learn. So, specifically, for example, the Twilio apprenticeship, Intuit, and Microsoft. We've also created a resource guide with a URL that y'all can that you're welcome to fill out if you are interested in getting into the technology space specifically. I will drop that in the link here. There's also a resource guide code. In the resource guide are kind of roles and technologies, some of our panel discussions, a free tuition course by Hackbright, and then various articles. And we expect to also make this guide grow as well. Finally, I know I'm at time. I just want to say thank you to all of our corporate sponsors. We are continuing to do this work, and we have gotten some grants from other organizations who are sponsoring us. So we're hoping to continue. So if y'all are interested, we're more than happy to help. And now we're open to questions.